Hi there. I'm Gary Lumpkin, but you don't know that and probably don't care, but then again, maybe you do. The important things to tell you about myself, physically, my hair is brown, my tie is red, my eyes are red and blue because people kept me out late last night and plied me with fettuccine and cheap wine, and then made me get up at 6:30 to meet somebody that didn't show up at 7:30. So I've had a real fun time in Minnesota. It's my first time here. I want to come back. It's been a ball so far, and it's culminating right now with this wonderful conversation that I've just enlightened you with. Back to you, Steve.
Well, what do you think of Minnesota now? Is this your first time that you've ever been here?
That is true. This really is the first time. I've been to Chicago, in the Midwest, a few places, but never to Minnesota. So, in 24 hours, it's hard to get a real impression, other than capital KOLD.
Maybe you should tell the people how you came to Minnesota, what you were wearing.
I'm wearing a Sears and Roebuck special and a shirt, and that's about it. And that's the way I came. I got off the plane. There's no scarf, no wool cap, no gloves. I don't even have the benefit of these handy little items right here, and I want to get some of these too because I want to be just like Steve when I grow up, and that's what I want to have. So I really was not very prepared, and I knew it. That's kind of stupid because I knew. What I don't know is, should I be talking to you or talking to the light? But I'm going to talk to the light. But what I didn't, I knew that the conditions were as they are. We get the paper in Salt Lake City, as strange as that may seem, and we heard about your 17 inches last week, and we've talked on the phone. But I came just like this because I'm a real tough guy.
What had you heard about Minnesota? I'm sure you asked about Minneapolis and the Twin Cities area. What did people tell you?
It came back to the weather, and weather's such a dumb thing to talk about, but sooner or later every conversation either starts there or ends up there. And so people said, it's too bad you're going there now, because if you went there in October, you wouldn't leave. That wouldn't even be a factor. And they said it's pretty severe. Other things people told me, it's somewhat of an industrial area, but certainly not like Chicago or Gary, Indiana. Frankly, the people that I talked to try to find out, I don't really know too many people, as it turns out, that have spent much time in this area, because I really did try to find out. I found out a lot about the station and some of the things that it's done and so forth, but specifically about the area, because I tried to, and the people I know, we don't have any connections.
How about the Dome? Aren't people talking about the Dome in Salt Lake City?
Okay, the Dome. I was given to show you how informed I was and to bring myself really, and I asked somebody else this question today too. This is a setup, by the way. This is to make me look stupid. So let me tell you exactly how we're doing this. I have this sports guy back in Salt Lake who told me about the Dome and the fact that it collapsed a few months ago, and said there's a name that's kind of come along with that. It's not the Hubert Humphrey Dome or whatever. It's the Gosh Dome, as opposed to Gosh darn it fell, or something like that. Some clever play on words, and he says, hey, say Gosh Dome back there, and people know that you're really in on the inside joke. Well, I've said it twice to two people, and I've got approximately that reaction. And I was as thrilled about it as you probably are.
So much for being an insider.
So much for knowing all what's going on and being up to date on the Gosh Dome and anything else.
One of the things we did is we had Gary go out to the unemployment office here in the Twin Cities. Did you go to the St. Paul or the Minneapolis?
It was Minneapolis.
In Minneapolis. And we were curious on what was going on out there. What did you find once you were there?
Quite frankly, pretty much what you would expect. There are people just standing in lines, shuffling forward as their turn comes. A wall counter, rather, with cubicles that look very identical from the other side, very automated behavior of the people, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just that we kind of looked at the impersonal aspect of the job and tried to see if that really existed, and to some extent it really does.
The job, you mean the job of the people working behind the counter?
The people that really have a job, right, trying to help the other people on the other side. And so basically, we just, like I said, it was nothing really out of the ordinary, quite frankly. There were people just standing in lines hoping we wouldn't photograph them.
Really?
Oh, yes.
Embarrassed to be there?
Well, sure. And you know, we kind of made a point of saying we intend to photograph only from the back. We're really more interested in the people working here, so we may shoot over your shoulder. Were we to catch enough of a profile to make a identifiable person, we will promise you we won't use that in this the segment to be aired such and such, and we kind of built on about that.
Have you ever been through that yourself?
As a matter of fact, I was once when I was in graduate school. Back in the hard times, we talked about that before. But anyway, yes, I was unemployment for about 13 weeks.
Was it humiliating to go through that experience, or what was it like for you?
Well, yes, it was. I had a summer job as a student working for Pepsi-Cola and shuffling the cans. And since more pop is sold in the summer, they hire extra people and then they lay them off. So I was barely worked long enough in the summer to even qualify, and I only qualified for a short time. I think 13 weeks, may not even been that long. But it was a little degrading. But you know, I was trying to go to school, and so I could have probably, quite frankly, maybe found something. But it was important at that time to finish school, and I was really close to finishing it, so I did do it for about 13 weeks.
Was it your impression at the time, Gary, that the people behind the counter knew anything about your case or really cared that you were on unemployment or whether you found a job?
No, they're too busy. That was 10 years ago, and even then, you know, and it's got to be worse now.
Is that true today?
Sure. Well, it was a solid line. It was a solid line of people. They're polite. They're courteous. They're not overly friendly, but they're not negative either. But it's very matter of fact. To qualify for this stage, you have to do this form, this form, this form. Contact this person, this person, this person, and you know, and they repeat that out, and they do it, you know, 10 times an hour, 8 hours a day. So unless they get some hostility back at them, it's very businesslike and very impersonal. And that was the way it was. It wasn't matter that they could care less, but they really don't have time to get involved. I mean, you know, that's please, I don't want to get involved type thing, I guess.
Did you get a chance to talk to many of the people who were standing in line to pick up their checks?
Not today. We didn't do that on purpose, but well, we were kind of asked because of the Privacy Act and so forth, that's over the shoulders and those kinds of generic shots of people are okay. But and we had to, when we would turn the cameras on, we were to inform the people that what we were doing and how we were shooting it. And if they were still nervous about being on camera, they could step out of line and not lose their place. People are very nervous about it. People almost would rather do this to the cameras than risk losing their place after spending, you know, an hour and a half to get to three people from the front door.
An hour and a half, really?
Well, I make that up, but it's...
Well, how long does it take them from the back?
Well, we were there over an hour, and people at the back of the line when we got there were probably just getting out when we left. I'm sure they were in line for an hour.
I read in the paper yesterday, I can't remember the state, maybe it was Wisconsin, where they had suggested that the people on welfare go out and shovel the city's snow, remove the snow. What do you think of that idea? Well,
that's like the old, was it WPA or concept of things, and that was an effective way of dealing with the problem back in the 30s. Maybe it would be. I don't really know. It's certainly any number of things like that could be done, but then you still have the problem of paying them.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that the work is needed and would benefit everybody is not the question. They still have to be paid. And so where does the money come from to pay them? There's really no answer to that. Even minimum wages, you know. I mean, when a fellow there was telling me, or not there, excuse me, a fellow last night was telling me that the Target department store that's opening up, a discount department store with 500 openings, big hiring concern, 3,000 people show up to work for minimum wage for those 500 jobs. So there's no question there's enough people that will work for almost nothing, and probably they would be paid almost nothing to shovel snow, but you still got to pay them something, and I don't know where the money would come from.
And do they want to shovel snow?
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe they do. I think maybe at this point, maybe they would.
Okay. We only have a few more seconds to talk to you, Gary. What do you want to talk about, buddy?
Gosh, I'm just all talked out.
Okay, just one thing.
Certainly.
What was just tell us about your favorite story that you've ever covered in your entire career on television.
An actual story as opposed to a contrived thing, because I've done some of that too, as you may have known.
Anything.
Well, the Dallas spoof saga, in its 4 parts, was collectively was pretty fun because it built up and it made a pretty good stab at a parody.
That's tough to explain because that's a long one. Okay, We'll just conclude with this then.
Oh, you wanted an actual explanation? I mean, really talk about it.
Yeah, don't bother. We'll try this. If I really knew you well,
you would have never had me get up at 6:30 this morning. Go ahead.
What should I know about you that I don't know already? Because you and I have talked now for a while. What don't I know about you?
Well, to answer that, you almost end up doing a lot of this, you know, and I don't know, you know, I don't. I'm probably more well-rounded, and that sounds complimentary. I don't mean that. I probably have more facets to me than most people realize. I'm interested in a wider variety of things and knowledgeable, conversationally at least, about more things than people probably think. Background in athletics, people can talk sports and they like to do that. And as the funny guy on TV, that's an angle. But there are any number of things that I feel comfortable talking about, and people probably don't realize that about me. None of us are very shallow, and we all are complex in our own ways, and I don't think that maybe I stand out that way, but I think maybe some people think of me in certain terms and don't realize that I have interests of a variety of things. I read a lot. I just finished reading Liddy's book, Will, and I think that's, people don't think of me as reading that kind of stuff. They might think of me reading, the latest Robbins novel or something like that.
How do you like your nickname?
I've had it forever, so Lumpy is, I answer, probably the only person that calls me Gary. Well, anybody that first meets me calls me Gary, and then pretty soon they realize how stupid that is, and my mother. That's really the only people that call me Gary. I'm sure my daughter will probably call me Daddy, and then she'll phase into Lumpy too eventually. It's inevitable.
And that's okay.
Great. Good luck, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Really a pleasure to meet you.
Good times.
Yeah.